Tango 1 at the top. We are at Pop-Up Vehicle. 10-4, Tango 1. You have control. Tango 1 copy. Stand by. Stand by.
Integrity, passion, resilience. That's what this place was built on. That's what our community is founded on. Don't act like the example, just be the example. This is the home of the greatest fitness community in the world. We're trying to create strong, able bodies, resilient to injury with a gas tank to get shit done. If there's one thing from this podcast, it's about taking immediate action, find the problem, fix the problem. This is your opportunity. It's either a hell yes or a fuck no. It's that simple. You're doing that. The Tango 1 podcast. Now is the time to take action. Now's the time to do more and be more.
It's just like being in court. I'm telling you. You get through the first few questions, you say your name, hold the Bible and nonsense, and you're good to go. You're good to go. So, guys, welcome to the Tango 1 podcast. I'm super excited for today's episode because I got my friend Joe Shangi on here. Joe is a former team leader of a huge municipal SWAT team, one of the biggest in North America. But he's also the president of, and he's a supervisor in that role now, right? But he's also the president of the Ontario Tactical Advisory Board. We've been friends for, it's got to be well over 10, 12 years now, I would guess. And I met you and we were doing some work together, and we'll get into all that stuff today. But man, I know you don't want to be here, but I'm so happy you're here. I called out the coin on this one, guys. You heard me talk about coins before. I put my coin on the table, and here he is on the podcast after saying no to so many other people.
Yeah, that's the truth. That is the truth. That's what we do, right? When you're called upon, it's the same thing in our circles, right? Steve Nash, he'll call on me for whatever it may be. And I'm there, right? And the thing is about these threads is that I may call on you in an uncomfortable moment for yourself there, Tony. Hey, just so you know, because this is not my wheelhouse, I'll tell you that.
I'm counting on it. Well, nobody's disappointed yet, so I don't think you'll be the first one, that's for sure, man. So today in this episode, man, I want to talk to you about leadership. I want to talk to you, maybe we do have a few SWAT guys that listen to this, so maybe spreading the word a little bit about OTAB and all the great things that you and, I know right away you're the humble guy. It's not just you, it's this huge crew of people. I know you want to spread the word about that. And just talk about even right now, like uncomfortable. So you had a choice. At the end of the day, there's no way I could force you to do that, as much as this coin means to you and I are like, that code of honor that we have with each other. I would have never forced you on here. But one of the things you sent back to me right away was, you know what, man, I don't ever do this. I've said no to everybody, but I think it's time that I step out of my comfort zone. So let's talk about that.
Yeah. Well, no, it's just something that I've always felt, even from, being a team leader. It was something that I'd never, strive to be. I don't know. I think you find most people that aren't t-shirt guys in the SWAT world, they just want to soak up where they're at, as opposed to just get the t-shirt and leave. Yeah, I did it. But way back from being the team leader, I didn't want to do it, but I knew that discomfort would turn into something good. And so I did it. And wow, the most honorable position, I'll tell you that, in the entire SWAT world, in my opinion, because at least if you function the way we do at my unit, and that's that the team leader is the same rank as any other officer. So being able to lead a crew of men and sometimes a woman in our unit, it's an honor to have people follow you and to do do what's required when you ask them. So from then, that place of discomfort as well, I went on a leadership course with Lieutenant Colonel Steve Nash, retired, who you know quite well.
Yeah, and it was a few episodes ago.
Okay, I haven't listened to it. I will listen to it, and now I will listen to Tango 1, which is I don't follow podcasts as much, but I'll follow yours, just like I'm on this. But yeah, anyways, I don't want to go too far down that path. But yeah, basically, places that you're uncomfortable, embrace the suck is what they say. And that's what I try to do. Even when I don't want to do it and I dread it, I'll do it. And then I'll always feel better for it. It's kind of like traveling alone. I try to tell people, if you ever get the opportunity to go travel by yourself, it is the most challenging thing that I've ever done, and I think anybody can do. But at the end of the day, it's the most rewarding. And they're the most rewarding trips because you've done everything for yourself. It's kind of a weird thing. It's like a self-care type of thing where at the end of the day, you've done everything, not because your wife wanted to go here or your buddy wanted to party here. You did everything for you. And you had to get up out of bed to do it on vacation. I'm telling you, it sounds like it's a dream. It's not.
Well, let's dive into that, man. I'm all about travel. And like, I am a big believer in that. And since I've left the police service, even while I was on it, one thing I've always done is it's nice with business, you write off these trips, but I've always gone on my own to do some of these certifications. What are some of the trips you've done solo?
Well, I haven't done a ton, but I mean, I did Peru, and I did some,
wow.
You know, a few treks in Peru as well. And doing that, like I said, doing that solo, I don't know if you can kind of get a taste for it when you do your own trips, but when you're going on your own sort of syllabus or agenda and you have to create it, where, you know, you might be going somewhere traveling by yourself and then you have engagements or such, I think it's different than that.
Yeah.
So anyways, it was amazing. It was life-changing, right? Absolutely. Going to Puerto Maldonado in the jungle, staying there in the rainforest, basically with monkeys, traveling and, like, you know, using the trees as transport. Like, that's where they lived in the wild. So that was pretty incredible. But then I did the trek to Machu Picchu.
That's on my bucket list.
Sort of, yeah, landed in Cusco and then did a 5-day trek through the mountains and sort of came up close to the where Salkantay Trek starts there. I guess they're snow caps.
So you did
the Salkantay
5
Mountains.
days.
Sorry, yeah, 5 days. Yeah.
So there's
5
two.
nights.
Is there not 2 routes up and one? Is that?
There's a few routes and there are a few choices. So, you know, people can do a 2-day trek, but it depends on where you insert, right?
Right.
And what paths you go on. But I did the 5-day, and that was, yeah, it was amazing. Met some great people. Learned a lot about myself. It was freezing, man, and I wasn't prepped that first night when we, you know, you hike and then you camp, and that first night was frozen ground. Yeah, just waiting for the coca tea, like waiting for them to, like, I basically unzipped the tent when they came in front of it and poured me a tea. But yeah, no, it was pretty wild. Yeah, so Peru is fantastic. I did also a trek of the Colca Canyon where you see the condors. The condors float on the thermals because the Colca Canyon is sort of like the Grand Canyon. I think it's 3 times as deep, from my understanding, right? So
Really?
anyways, it was a trek down into the canyon and then a trek up. And just the year prior, I had knee surgery, so full ACL reconstruction. So that was something else that was going through my brain. I had nobody to complain to, but it was a grind, right? Testing out that tendon that was doing the job as a ligament because they cut my patella tendon. Anyways, doing that trek was a grind, believe me, both of those treks. And I learned a lot about myself and what I can take. And that's, you know, sort of solidified the whole discomfort and the growth. I kept a journal, which I recommend because everything gets blurred into each day if you don't do that. Anyways, enough about that.
Oh man, we love it.
Before we go on though, I just want to make it clear, like, no matter what my views are or what I say on here, it doesn't reflect or represent the service that I work for, which I'm not saying who I work for. But anyways, it doesn't, and I'll let you know if it's something on an OTAB perspective that it's sort of a stance that we're taking. But otherwise, everything else is of my my own opinion. And then just so you know, for everybody out there, it's the Ontario Tactical Advisory Body.
Oh,
I know a lot of people say it's board.
I always
no,
say
it's all
board.
good. Yeah, no, a lot of people do. But yeah, it's body anyways, so all good.
Good to clear that up. But yeah, we are interviewing Joe, the guy. And you know, one of my things, and maybe you can talk about this a little bit, is when I left the police service, and mostly when I left the team, it was hard. I feel like I was, you know, at some points it was like, does Tony Smith the man? Like, the guy, his own person exist. You know, it was very hard to like separate myself from that uniform. In the paramilitary environment too, like they do very much control what you say, or not so much what you say, but you can get in shit for what you say, I guess it was more of it, right? Because you do have, you know, like what a lot of people don't realize is you're bound by, you know, the code, the police code, on top of the, you know, the criminal code, like everybody else is. So there's an above and beyond, you know, I wish there was like something like that for almost every job place. I could put everybody on the garage gym code, right? They can't, if you're, anytime you speak, you're representing us. And then we try to do that here too, is right. You know, like, so whatever you post on Instagram here, you kind of represent us. So I definitely appreciate that. So we were definitely speaking to Joe, the guy, but you could get yourself into trouble, and I appreciate being on here, and we're not going to put you in that position at all. But you know what? I will say all police services so far, we've had a lot of cops on here. I've been super like responsive to this, and even had the, you know, the chief of police on, and we got a new chief. I'm going to see if I can get him on here too soon.
Crazy. In Windsor, eh? Yeah, nice.
Yeah, in Windsor, and we've had a few handful for people of other, I guess, you know, Luso's gone, but like we've had a handful of other people that have come on here, and it's been refreshing too to you know what, one of my goals on this podcast is to show policemen as people, right? And show, like, you know, I been into discussions with people from, you know, in the political side of things, and try to show the police perspective on some different situations that I think the public doesn't realize, you know, from the taser to racial things to, you know, just to understand like this truth now that I can just speak, right? It's been kind of refreshing, and I feel like I'm doing like some good for the police service in that regard. So anyways, back to you, man. Like, so when you're doing those treks, like, I love that you said about the journaling, because that's what we do on our trips. Danny and I have done a lot of hikes together, and she does a great job of keeping track of it. But when you open those books later, like, one, it's awesome. Mm-hmm. One, you can tell people like, hey, go to this little coffee shop in this little town that has no roads.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, that part is amazing. So
like, you know, what you were saying before about, you know, when you left and you were like, is there you know, Tony Smith, right? And I totally understand what you're saying there. And that's why some of the things that I do assist me with that, right? Because you can become completely engulfed and surrounded by work. It's right now I'm having trouble with it, right? And that's one thing. I feel weird talking about leadership right here, because I feel like I'm the furthest thing from a leadership guru or anything at all. I'm still learning and making many mistakes as it goes, as things go along in life. And I would say one of my strengths, which I don't toot my horn about at all, but one of my strengths is admitting my own fallibility. And, you know, believe it or not, that resonates, I think, with people. And when you show your underbelly to people, you have much more of a connection, I find, and people are much more receptive to you. Anyways, that's going down a different path. All I'm saying is that I've been thinking quite a bit about Joe Shangi and what is he right now. And right now I need to make some changes. Nothing like doom and gloom, but I'm just saying, usually what I do is I volunteer. I love volunteering, right? So I do, you know, traditionally I volunteer, do humanitarian missions. I volunteered for the Teresa Group, which was a non-for-profit for kids that were affected by HIV and AIDS. So I volunteered with them for 5 years. 2 years is just like a, you know, grassroots office events. And then I was on their board of directors for 3 years. And then I do, like I said, humanitarian missions down south. Then OTAB came up. So basically I got promoted. I became TL, did TL for a couple years on my team. After having actually Steve Nash's leadership course, I was challenged, and it made me think about what level of influence and that I have to make effective change. And so I realized at that time, going back in the stack, there's nothing wrong with that, because you can make huge changes within the microcosm that you're on, which then has a ripple effect. I just wanted to make, I think, have my finger in making larger changes. So that's why I went for sergeant. So I got promoted to sergeant and came back to the unit, and then again took I went for with Nash. I'm giving him huge plugs, eh, Steve? But yeah, I went on a wilderness adventure with himself and geez, I hope I'm remembering it right, but it's retired General Larry Sinclair. I'll say retired General Larry.
Sounds
Anyways, so we went on this sort of trek outdoors, no tents, just sleeping outside, and had some private sort of quiet time walking with the general. And we talked about another promotion. And, you know, from talking with him and looking again at what I want to do for the unit, I decided to go for promotion again. So then I got cranked again. And now I'm still at my unit, except in the staff sergeant role, which is an honor again. But I'll tell you, it's a lonely spot, right?
Yeah, I can imagine, man. Like one of the cool things for me, and you and I reuniting, and I'll go back to how we met before, but you and I reuniting at the last OTAB was actually the same guy. Steve Nash asked me to come up and speak on the course he was running. And I reached out to, of course, our common friend and my partner, the guy I got on the team with, Delmo.
Yeah,
and he's like, oh, Shangi's the president. I'm like, what? And then I show up there and you're there, and it was so great. And then to be around Delmo. But what I was going with that, it was like so many guys like me and you who were like, hey, we're going to be constables for life. Forget this. We don't want to be promoted.
Yeah.
And now all those guys, I mean, I left, but all those guys, there's so many of them, the Pidge and Eddie, and like just so many guys were there. And even the guys who were the new team leaders were all like my buddies. And now you guys are all making a difference on the more of the macro. Like, so yeah, team leader, you can make some great influence and do some great things, save lives, do some hero stuff, and also do some great things for the people around you. But you're very much limited to that, crew of warriors you're surrounded with. Once you get into those supervisory roles, now maybe you can make some differences that are going to be rippled for a longer time, right? Like if you can change some policies and get some things moving smoother and faster and get your guys equipped, you're making a huge difference.
Absolutely. And I don't that's the thing, is that I don't look at it as much as a supervisory role, and certain people do 100%. I work with people that look at it as supervisory role. We need to supervise. I think there's a requirement for leadership, or there's a requirement for certain roles, but we're all part of a team, and there's a role that's needed as TL. There's a role as a sergeant that's required. There's a role as a number one, as a sniper, a role as a staff sergeant. Know your lane, stay in your lane, and affect the change that you can there. So where I was talking before, so I was saying about, sorry, is this a therapy session for me? Because I'm going back to,
this is what people love, man. This is what people love.
But I'm going back to where you need some sort of a balance. And my balance was volunteering. That's all I really feel. To be honest, that's all I feel I'm really good at, is helping other people. It's crazy, but that's like, I don't feel like I'm an amazing contractor or somebody that plays the drums, which I have here, that are just sitting here. But being somebody that can help out 100%. But what's happened in the past few years since I came back, that's where I was going to the ETF, was that I saw there was a gap in regards to representation from us in our large service at OTAB.
Right.
And that would be, I saw that and I said, well, that's absolutely ridiculous that, one of the largest tactical teams in North America is not representing on OTAB. So I talked to my boss and said, hey, you cool with me sort of maybe going for it? And so that's when I went for it. And that's when I went for OTAB. I became the GTA rep, narrow it down anyway. So I became the GTA rep there. And then a couple of years ago, I became the president of OTAB. But what I'm finding though, and this is no slam, because the changes that we're affecting and the boards that the working groups that I'm sitting on are very important things, such as the dynamic entry working group, all the the controversy around dynamic entries and no-knock warrants. So I'm sitting on these provincial bodies or panels, and affecting a certain amount of change and representing from our tactical community. But at the same time, everything is gray to me, man. I work in gray. I volunteer in gray. I dream in gray. I wake up in the morning with, the blue light in my face, gray. I'm getting, so not just my job, which is, a pretty demanding job in itself, but on top of that, you've got everybody in the province and beyond that are sending emails, asking questions, and you feel a responsibility to it. So that's where I'm at right now, is that I'm looking at hopefully getting some sort of a succession plan for somebody else that'll be able to take over as president, and then I can go back. Not that I don't love this, I do, but then I can go back to, I think, what my real passion is, and that is, volunteering to help people that are much more underprivileged.
Good for you, man.
Right, whatever. And I'm nothing great. Listen, I am nothing
stop
great.
Saying it. Stop saying that.
No, I'll tell you something. I'll tell you something though, man. People say volunteering, that's great. Joe, you do this, you do that, you go down south, you do these volunteering missions. I don't know, man. It's very selfish. It's a very selfish thing, volunteering, because it makes you feel better as a person. And then in turn, you're more effective for all the people that are actually in your circle. So you go and do this small thing down south, build something, whatever it may be. Yeah, you're affecting that change. Great. It's a drop in the bucket, really, right? Like really, when you're looking at the whole grand scheme of how, impoverished the world is, yes, that's nice that you're helping. Is it making a change? Yes, for that tiny little bit. Is it making a huge change that's making a wave? I don't know. Maybe. I don't think so. I think where the major effect is on your own personal life and how you deal with others and your perspective on what problems are in a first world country.
So let me stop you there. So that is what a ripple effect is, though, man. So yes, like people need to be a little bit more selfish in order to make themselves feel better, act better. Like that's what you're doing. You're going out being selfless, in effect, being selfish, as you described, right? Because it makes you feel great. But then how you treat the people that you encounter through work, whether they be, cops or just citizens or people who are down on their luck or your family, that all has that ripple effect, man. Like that's when I came up to OTAB, that's what I was speaking on. I came up there, I wasn't going to charge anybody for anything. I got hooked up with some good meals and stuff. That was awesome. I was so appreciative of that. But like, I came up there, and in effect, the first thing I said to my wife when I got on the phone on the highway was like, "Oh my God, I needed that." And,
great.
All the stuff you're getting, the feedback from other people was like, "Thank you so much," but you're like, "Man, no, thank you so much."
Yeah.
I had no idea how much I needed to get some of that stuff off my chest and to feel like I was actually, my whole goal was to like, I don't want any. I quit. I quit because I couldn't be there anymore. Because I was feeling gray. I was like, that it was hard to separate, but I don't want all these guys and girls to quit. We fucking need you guys.
Yeah.
So like, man, if I can do a little bit to stop you or anybody else from feeling like they're trapped in a place where the only solution is to quit the job or God forbid, even worse, like let's get that out there. And so if that is a little bit selfish, but that's where the ripples begin, man. And you're doing huge ripples. Like let's start where, so years and years ago, and OTAB might not want to hear this, but years and years ago, OTAB wasn't really around for us, or maybe it wasn't for you and for me down at the western part, southern tip of Canada here. Yeah. The southwest tip. And we weren't a part of it. And I felt very, very alone as a team leader. And as a leader, like you said earlier, leaders feel very alone very often because there's like, who are you going to after that? Mm-hmm. Right. And so I reached out to a bunch of you guys from around the, the province, fully expecting, especially you guys, the big ones who we never talked to, like say no. And like, let's get together, all these team leaders. And man, you guys showed up. And I remember like, you talk about being uncomfortable. I did not even want to give my presentation that morning when I saw these people. And like, You're looking around, you see the guys
Yeah.
that, you know, you look up to walk into that room. You know, like some of your compadres that I've been to so many debriefs and listened to them speak. I was like, holy crow, man, these people are here to hear me talk. And then I talked to, I remember you coming up to me on the first break and saying, this is unbelievable. And, you know, leadership, you're like, now where do we go from here? You're already thinking, how can we be bigger? Now here we are, whatever that is, 10 or 15 years later, and look at the OTAB. You had 300 and something, you know, SWAT guys and girls there, and what an event in a beautiful place, and so much learning going on, man. So I feel like you don't feel like what you actually are giving that you're giving. So good for you, man. I'm proud of you.
Thank you. Thank you. And I'm telling you, I'm proud of you too. And you bring me back. Holy cow. Yes, I remember the first ever TL symposium being held in Windsor, and just jumping on board, Luso, myself, heading out to Windsor. I can't remember who else we brought. I do remember who we brought. I remember we brought out Craig, right? Like who's in our training office now, Craig Ashman. Yes, because he was falling asleep at the we were out at the restaurant.
What we do best too. We stayed up pretty late those nights.
But I'll tell you something, man. You guys took care of us, and you definitely. So yes, there is a ripple effect, and you caused that then, because do you remember what happened the next year? We hosted the second.
Yeah, and I was back in patrol, and you had me up, treating me like gold.
So you had the first TL symposium in Windsor, and then we came back out to you know, where I work, and we hosted the second one, and brought you guys out. And I think there might have been a third.
Good for you. But now it's where it should be. It's back in OTAB's hands.
Yes.
Which is where it always should have been. And just probably you and I can't even speak to it. We don't know. But now it is. And, you know, because of the actions of a few, and, you know, look how strong I was going to OTAB years and years ago. I've never seen anything like what we saw there. And it's good on them who started that thing years and years back, and good on you and Delmo and all these great people. And, you know, Dave, we can not mention a good brand there, but like, there's a lot of you guys who are doing some great things. What is the mission of OTAB?
The mission of OTAB is to facilitate training, the best training, networking, and best practices, as well as advocating for the tactical community through the Solgen's office, or wherever it might be, right? And representing our guys and girls that are in the tactical community in Ontario. So I mean, so we hold meetings quarterly, which include the Canadian Tactical Conference, which is the largest in Canada. Amazing. Our friends through the military and special operation forces, CANSOFCOM are a big portion of that. Obviously, every TAC team in Ontario as well. This year's was incredible. We had you know, psychologists, doctors, nurses that were all involved in this, as well as obviously TLs. We had a crown, one of our head crowns, Vince Puri, who's incredible, for one of the head crowns in Ontario, came and presented on a multitude of topics, one including dynamic entry. So if anybody out there in internet land is from a law enforcement agency down in the States or wherever it may be, look up OTAB and the Canadian Tactical Conference. We host it every May. It would be amazing if you were to come out and see that. We're also looking at revamping our roundup, which is a SWAT competition. So we're looking at revamping that with some modern technology, including autonomous robots. You know, that you'd have to shoot, and snipers would have to shoot. It's not all about shooting people, because believe me, there will be other portions in regards to negotiations and crisis negotiations and de-escalation. So that's why I'm saying that it's going to be very modern. Yeah.
Good, man, that's amazing. And I think for people who don't, the layman's, I guess, out there, and I think this is where I try to do my part for the police service. This is me speaking, not OTAB, not Joe Shangi. It's like dynamic entries and firearms and all these things is like, it is, we try not to use the word never always, but we do not get presented, Joe or I, with a situation and it's only one tool to fix it. Every single time that I can't speak for you, but every single time I was presented with a mission, here's the situation, here's what we need to do, here's what we need you to do, solve this situation. It was never like, hey, crash the door and just run in. Never was it that. It was always looking at every single angle possible and pulling from every piece of experience and my experiences also comes from your experience and the other people that we network with to make the best decision in a really bad situation. So I think like that is one thing, like, I think the courts, or maybe not the courts, the media is painting it as like, hey, every single thing we're presented with, the only is a nail and the only tool we have is a hammer. It's right. Not true. We have a lot of tools, a lot of technology, and peaceful resolution is always, that is the one always. Peaceful resolution is always at the top of our list. Protect the innocent people, protect everybody else, the bad guys, all the way down that order, right? The prioritization of who we're out there to protect. And we are not trying. The last thing we want is lethal force. Last thing we want.
100%. Yeah, and that's sort of a misconception, right? That there is out there that we're knuckle draggers and all we do is shoot and work out. That is so far from the truth. So there was a CBC expose on dynamic entries last year or the year before when everything came down from Breonna Taylor down in the States, which the States is a completely different animal, right?
Oh, we know.
And there is no comparison to Canada. But that expose, if you watch it on CBC on dynamic entries, anybody out there in internet land, check it out. But it is a misrepresentation of what we do. And that just showed a lot of shooting, basically, and, force. What people don't know is that 20 to 30% of our calls are persons in crisis. And people don't realize that almost a third of our calls are persons in crisis, things that don't make the media because nobody cares about successful resolutions. Nobody cares about good, feel-good stories where you've actually saved somebody from the bad side of the balcony. These are things that the general public doesn't know. This is what TAC teams do. People are on the bad side of a balcony looking to end their life. A TAC team shows up, negotiates, and gets that person back over and saves them another day.
Right. Well, think about the question. How many people have you killed? Why not how many people have you saved?
Yeah,
because
exactly.
I can tell you, like, I don't know the numbers, but I would like throw a real loose out there, like tens of thousands of calls, how many actually ended any kind of force? Very, very, very few, very few.
Absolutely.
Right. Like every time you encounter a person, like all day long, like they're not even registered in the computer. When you encounter people, you get out of your car, you talk to people just to kind of like move things along, or someone who's being a little bit disorderly in the coffee shop. Like those are all things that don't even count in the stats. Like we even count on those, it'd be even higher.
Yes.
Like, what's happening out there? And that was when all the Floyd stuff was happening. I'm like, man, people realize that like we're talking such a minute percentage of how many encounters actually end in force, how many end in lethal force, and how many of those lethal force are actually neglectful or overuse of the force. It's wild. And I think the police in Canada in particular, I can't speak on the States, I don't go there, I'm not criticizing our brothers across there. I do go there, but I'm not allowed there in the last couple of years. But I think that's really far from it. And I think one thing that police services have not done well, though, Joe, is get on and have candid conversations like this. I remember I got my we call it your PP slapped. I did an interview with one of the newspaper medias, and I was pretty honest. I said, yes, we are an escalated use of force. We show up looking in a certain way with a certain amount of equipment, and I hope that just us showing up is enough for the bad guys to come up. And they were not happy with what I said, but I'm like, why do we not start being more open and honest, instead of like, not like the police are lying, but they're just not giving out any information. Like, if we did a little bit more of that and provided a little bit more clarity and understanding into what we're actually doing, maybe people would actually believe it a little bit more. We could control the narrative more than letting the media control it, which I think is the huge problem.
No, absolutely. Yeah, no, I agree. And there's a lot that can be done, a lot that should be done. And I think, as much as like currently, I'll tell you right now, I'll be honest. I think the morale, I'm not speaking for anybody, like I said before, I think the morale is, relatively low with certain things that are going on right now in the media. I think it's going to change. I really do. I have hope that it will change. It's just sort of a cycle in the way things are going. And right now it's in a down cycle. To be honest there, Tone, I forgot where I'm going with that.
That's cool. We were going to go down somewhere that we don't want to go anyway. So
I agree.
Listen, man, I don't think, and you know what? I think the great people are staying, they're keeping their heads above water and they're still doing great things. It's just not recognized nearly as much as it should be. That's one thing I think they do great in the States is like, I think they should be pinning a lot more awards onto people. I know Nash hates awards, but I think like putting that into the, like, out there and saying like, hey, how many lives have you actually saved? How many people have you actually talked off the balcony? And how many times has it ever made any kind of news? Like, one in 150, and it's usually because you did a fireman job, you went into a burning building. The only time I've ever been recognized is going into a freaking burning building, do fireman's work, right? So
no, the States definitely do a great job on that end. And I think on our end, we need to take sort of ownership in what we do, because everybody knows, like I said, the stereotypical what we do. We shoot really good. We're knuckle draggers that use a lot of force and work out. That's it. That's what everybody thinks we do. And I kind of recognize that actually with one of our promotional videos. And I spoke to one of our training sergeants, great guy. And at first he was, what are you talking about, right? So I said, listen, our promo video is all of us shooting guns and working out. And I think his attitude at the time was, isn't it pretty cool? Like, it was really like good production value and stuff. And I told him, well, it's very one-dimensional. It shows us or two-dimensional. It shows us working out and shooting. Very good. That's what everybody already knows. We don't want to solidify what the stereotype is. We want to break outside of that.
Yeah. What do we do after 9 a.m.?
I said, we need to show us leading investigative units, right? On, what we're doing. We need to show us speaking with persons in crisis, which is almost a third of our calls, right? And show the successful resolution with us walking that person to the TAC medics and getting them the help that they need, right? Planning, teaching. So even teaching courses to other services, other agencies. So there's all these things that people don't see. So he came back like a few days later and he said, you know what, Joe, I totally agree with you, and let's get moving on it. So he went with it, and now he's like writing scripts and everything.
Good on that guy, though. That's leadership right there too.
But it's also to educate the troops, ones that are applying to our unit, so that they know that we're more than just what you think we are. Right.
I mean, my favorite line was, that isn't on the brochure, isn't? Like, I remember being, I'm in a like full hazmat suit, and I'm at a garbage dump. There had been a murder, and the weapon had been thrown into a garbage bin, and like right in our downtown core. So with all the food and stuff, so they didn't know which garbage bins. They brought all the garbage bins from this like 10 block radius, and they just dumped them in front of us. And we were the new guys on the team. And I'm there with a freaking steak knife, cutting open bags and diapers and bad food, looking for this like weapon. Right. I'm like, I remember this is not on the fucking brochure, man. This was not on the SWAT brochure. I thought we were supposed to work out, drink protein shake,
disgusting,
hang our arms out the window. But yeah, man, there's so many things that get done there that aren't. So let's wheel back to leadership, which is like one of the things we always talk about here, and where one of the reasons why I brought you in is that I think that, you know, your leadership style is like, you do not represent the knuckle dragger, working out, shooting guy. Like, you are a happy go lucky and very like, my first like time I actually did an operation with you was we went up to your place, and I remember like you guys basically said, hey, this is what we need you to do. And I said, okay. And you said, do you have any questions? And I said, no. And you said, okay, let me know if you do and how I can help you. That's how I kind of do it here at the garage gym. It's like, hey man, like, you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Let me know how I can help you. And like, I think people like lose it when they're in that leadership position, especially when they get some rank, no offense to you.
Yeah.
That they're like, do it this way, this way, this way, and this way. And that's not, you're not giving somebody a task and leading them. You're just telling them what to do. Like, I think that's one of your strengths, and your vulnerability, huge. I think what you like how you outlined before, but maybe speak on that. Like, band almost.
Well, yeah, no, I appreciate that you recognize my fallibility and my screw ups. Yes. But no, you're right about empowering people to be creative. That was my number one goal when I came back and I landed on one of the gun teams as a sergeant. And, you know, the guys, if I don't know if they're listening or not, but I'm sure they can attest to it, is that was my goal, was creating a team of leaders, free thinkers, and creative thinkers, right? And, you know, they preach in our services to challenge the status quo. But, you know, realistically, to a certain extent, the bureaucracy supports the bureaucracy, which means challenge the status quo if it makes me look good, right? Like, that's what the sort of caveat is. With myself, it's very much, I want people to not follow leaders for the sake of following leaders. If something doesn't sit right, challenge it in a respectful, intelligent manner, and at the correct time and place, right? But definitely, that's one of the things that I encourage are creative leaders and creative thinkers. They fall, I think, part and parcel with each other. And what you'll get is a better product. You will get a better team when there are a team of creative thinkers that are open-minded to accepting, right? So people that are in the roles of TL and sergeant have to be receptive to those ideas. And that was kind of my thing. And now I'm in a role that oversees all the teams, and I'm trying to pass that on there. It's tough at times though, right? Because people are comfortable with the status quo and the way things have been.
Yeah,
so
and that's
it's
always
a matter
been
of convincing
in those units, right? It's always been that, and you and I have spoken that over many cigars and beers, about that. Like, there is always that, and then you see it on your own end too. Like, you're like, man, back in my day, like, nobody wanted to do anything different, and then we came in and we made this big difference. And then all of a sudden you realize that you're like, sometimes in here, even at the gym, and somebody comes up with a new idea, and I'm like, I'm that guy. I'm like, don't be that guy. You're let yourself be that guy. You have to like realize that, like, I always say, like, embrace the young lion.
Yes.
And all of us had that young lion. We were the young lion at one point. And then we got old. Now we got our scars, and and you get a little bit set in your ways, and you got to embrace that young lion and let him, like, or her challenge you and challenge the status quo, just like you said, man. So I love that.
Yeah. Well, you got to keep yourself in check, right? You really do. And if you don't keep yourself in check and have some sort of look, it's what happens. What do you do when nobody's looking? That's what it is. So when nobody's looking, when nobody saw you screw up, whatever it may be, and if you don't share that with anybody, then then you're going off on a wrong track. If you keep yourself on that track where nobody saw what happened and you share that with people, that's keeping you on the right track, because you're sharing those screw ups as opposed to hiding behind them.
Yes, that, that team leader course that I came down and helped, very little bit of help on, but observed a lot of it. One of the things that was big and a really cool lesson I learned for observing like students or participants was they had just a simple drill, and if your foot stepped off of a mat, the whole team was dead, basically, like dead in the drill, not dead in life. And to see how many people would actually admit without the coaches or the trainers calling them out, right? Because all they had to do is restart the drill, but everybody wanted to be done this drill, right? They're all been hanging out at nighttime and long days in the classrooms, up early, floating around in streams with Steve, but and to see, even sometimes the best of the best, when tired and when you're pissed and you just want to be done, to see if you can still admit fault and learn from it and then proceed. And that was something really curious to watch, man. It definitely opened my eyes to some things I'm going to do around here.
It's funny to see that, right? Because so many people think that screwing up is a weakness, and showing that is even worse. They'd much rather hide their screw ups. And that's why I believe our units, tactical units, can solve the world's problems, because for the most part, from what I see, we debrief everything that we do to improve. How can we improve? Who cares? Look, man, it's like this book I just started reading. It's an old book, Legacy, right? About
great book.
Yes. Yeah, the All Blacks, right?
The All Blacks, the rugby.
And no matter what, these guys win. They're the most winningest team. But after every game, they destroy a team. They still sit down and debrief. Everybody has their say on what happened, what went well, what didn't go well. And even those games or tries, or why am I not thinking it's not tries? Because I'm not a rugby guy. It's their tests. Sorry, their tests. Every one of their tests that are successful and they destroy the other team, it's still, what can we do better? Because guess what? We go up against somebody else. That's not going to work. What we just did is not going to work against them. So how are we going to improve that? Right? That's the sort of mentality, as opposed to celebrating in, wow, look at what we did. And another thing that impressed me on that book, if anybody has a chance, I've got it over here actually. One of my sergeants lent it to me, actually. Amazing guy. Hal Martin, I'll give him props. So it's James Kerr, Legacy. What the All Blacks can teach us about business of life, about the business of life. So the first chapter kind of grabs you where it says sweeping the sheds.
Yes.
And these guys, right?
I was going to cut you off on it, and I'm like, I think so he's going with it. I don't want to steal his thunder, but yeah, 100%, man. I love this. Keep going.
Yeah. So basically, superstar, multi-million-dollar star, they go through their debriefs. The coach is saying we need to improve here and there. We're not going to, this performance is not going to match against whoever the next person is or the next team is. Once the whole debrief is done, all the photos are taken and all the fame and, families coming in, you're a superstar, everybody leaves. The superstars of the team, the senior guys, grab the brooms and the mops and they start cleaning up the sheds. Not even their home, and they're cleaning it up so that when the cleaning staff comes in, it's better than when they had it, because their mentality is nobody takes care of the All Blacks. We take care of ourselves. The All Blacks take care of the All Blacks. And I thought that was incredible. And that that hits me and resonates with me, even at our base, right? Like, hey, guys, you missed that garbage can with your paper towel. You wouldn't do that at home. This is your home. Put it back. Put it in there. You're not above anything.
Yes.
There aren't cleaners here to clean up your shit. You clean up your own shit. And if I could bring it back a certain way, I would. and I would have the team guys take care of base, polish the floors, all that. But I don't think that'll work nowadays.
You know what? I use this example when I was teaching on selections. I still use it when I run my camp for men. And I remember having a supervisor. He came in and he was an ex guy, like one of our guys, and he's comes in to give us a rah and a things aren't so bad type speech, more sound like a politician. And then what did him in where he lost that room was I watched him throw a coffee cup, the coffee that one of my guys made him and handed him, throw a coffee cup and missed the can. But it wasn't that he missed the can. It was that he looked down at it and then just kept walking.
Oh,
and I remember thinking and he thought nobody saw him, but me and 4 of the guys, saw him. And it was that those little things like that, when you think nobody's watching, that's exactly, you hit the nail on the head there, Joe. And that Legacy, guys, if you haven't read that book, I've read it twice over and listened to the Audible is awesome. Don't just get the movie's great with Matt Damon, but it has nothing to do with Legacy. It's just a good, cool story. Don't just watch that. Read the book. It's outstanding. I recommend that all the time. So I love that I heard you say that. And it's just so many little commonalities that go between guys like me and you. So I got to say, man, when I came up there to sit down and, I Danny, my wife, when I left there the next morning, even though I stayed up with you till about 4:30 in the morning and we weren't even drinking, we were just literally sitting on that fancy rum of yours.
Yeah.
Having a cigar and chatting and the times like that for me in policing, I being there at the OTAB. That's what I missed. The action, the uniform, the shooting, the working out, the laughs. I really, really missed those just great conversations with great people, and truly maybe, don't appreciate it as much as I should have in the moment. So I hope in the, you've got whatever you've got left in your career, man, make the most of it. Do what those old guys used to tell us and have a little journal of some of those great things that you do and, the great moments so you can fully appreciate it, because it's hard to remember them now, even though being only out, 4 years.
It's true. It's true, man. It's the laughs and the people that you work with that you'll miss. You're not going to miss the politics behind everything, right? Absolutely not.
Even the action was great, but man, it's the people that I miss and the relationships and to realize, man, leaving your room that night. And I was like, man, the things I've done with those guys, the wild situations I've been in. And, remember you driving us through, I can't say where you were, but you're driving us to drop us off to do a door. And it's the middle of the night and that feeling that we've gotten, just pounding your fist as I walk out the door to lead guys into who knows what we're about to do. Right. That part is the greatest feeling ever. And I hope, I wish more people could feel it. So my last question for you, so we know that leaders don't need rank and some people with rank aren't leaders. What do you think is the toughest balance as you've now, because this is a situation I've never been in. I've never had, I guess I have rank at the gym, but I've never been somebody with rank who's been a leader. What is the toughest part to balance between those two?
Between rank and leadership?
Yeah, so that you can be a supervisor and a leader at the same time, because I'm sure there are things that you need to do. I can't see you approving vacation times and overtime and things like that. I've never seen that admin side of you. Is there a challenge that you find?
There's a challenge for sure. And if you lose,
you love the guys, and there's got to be a challenge between doing the both jobs.
In my opinion, if you don't lead the troops and they don't see that you're leading and that you're managing, you've lost them, right? You're not going to get anything above and beyond. You're not going to get those times where they say, hey, I'm on overtime, too bad. Right? You're going to get them more so saying, no problem, what do you need? And that's where you need to realize, everybody says, as you move up, you're more of a supervisor, more of a manager. I don't believe so. I think it's what change you effect and how you promote those and empower those that are working for you. And I don't even look for you, it's more with you, because we're all in different roles. And I would hope that you would look to the people that, for myself, I'm in a staff role. I'm looking at guys saying to them as sergeants, yeah, many of you could do my job, but I happen to be in it. So I'm doing it, and you're in your role and you have to do it. So leading the guys is important, is huge. If you don't show that leadership, you're not going to get what's required of the rank. And I don't want to rely on, hey, do it because of this. That's weak. That is the easy way to get around things, and you'll get things done. But you're going to get the bare minimum done and nothing beyond that. You're going to have no creativity, no passion amongst the people. And that is not what you want. You want a unit that's expanding. I don't care where you are. You could be in primary response. And if you're a sergeant that empowers people, they're going to make things flourish. So it's the same thing in TAC here, where I look at it, and if I'm not consistent in my behaviors, in my decisions, if I'm not a positive person, if I'm not giving people the opportunity to create something that I might maybe have a vision or might keep checking in every once in a while in the direction that it's going, if you don't give these freedoms, you're going to have issues in the rank. And knock on wood, I haven't had those issues. And it's not that I'm a fantastic guru. Like I said, I don't feel comfortable about saying it, but one of my strengths is admitting my fallibility. If anybody wants to see a great video, watch Dr. Karen Schultz on being wrong. It's amazing. This psychologist that talks about everything about on being wrong, and that on being wrong is actually being right. When you are wrong, you're actually right. So if you can actually reflect on things and say, wow, I was wrong with that, that's right. That is the correct thing to do. And it's a strength. It's not a weakness. So on being wrong, Dr. Karen Schultz is what I would say people watch. And I actually showed that to my team. When I got on the team as a brand new sergeant, I brought in something for growth on the team, which is, hey, I want you to bring in a video. I don't care what it is, as long as it's about personal growth or some sort of growth in the tactical community, or just as a human being. And so I brought that one in, and then got the ball rolling. And I'd pick somebody and I'd say, okay, you're next. And then that person would then bring in a video the next week. And then they would say, okay, you're next. And it would just keep rolling and rolling and rolling. So
now what people are thinking SWAT guys are doing. Good for you, man.
Yeah, no, it's true. Yeah, it's true. Maybe I'm breaking a stereotype that shouldn't be broken.
Yeah, no, I think it should be, and it needs to be. And man, I'm super proud of you for doing that. I do have one last bonus question, because like I can't omit this because I can't unread it in your form. So I know you're very well cited. I didn't really worry about your form too much. But this, I don't have a BO gene. What? What is it? What?
Oh my God, I don't want to really advertise this because people will think that I'm fucking crazy. But
well, we all got a little bit in us. So
the truth is that I don't have, look, people, I don't have a body odor gene.
So like you don't stink, or you can't smell me stinking?
I don't stink. I don't.
Did you get tested for this?
Well, you can test it, all right? we can go camping for a few days. I will not stink. Look, I don't know what it is, but my mom doesn't have it. My sister doesn't have it. I don't have it. My dad stinks. Well, he stunk when he was alive. And my brother smells, like completely smells bad, but we don't smell. It's weird. Like even when I was in high school, I remember my buddies like, starting to put on deodorant and speed stick and all that stuff. And so I went and bought some just because I thought it was the thing to do. But I stopped after like one stick because I'm like, why am I doing this? I don't smell. So it's funny. I just brought this up last week to somebody, and I think they were in awe. And I told them, I don't smell. And I said, have you ever smelled me? Like, have you ever, out of the 15, 20 years that you've known me, to these people, smelled my BO? And they're like, no, I haven't. And I go, well, I don't wear deodorant.
You know, man, one, you dated yourself by saying speed stick, but but
I should have said Axe, right?
Yeah. Right. But like, so just now think, now it's selection process, and you've got Joe Shangi versus Tony Smith, and you're like, well, man, these guys are both can bring it. They both got, room for some growth. Which one should we take on the team? Well, Joe doesn't stink ever. And you're like, whoa, this job is a very stinky job. This is a very stinky job we have. Let's take Joe. Right?
Take Joe. That's right.
That's a huge advantage. Just throw it out there more often.
That's hilarious, man. No, it's true. So yeah, sorry to tell you people, I don't spend money on deodorant at all. My son smells. Yeah. One of my sons, sorry, you know what? One of my sons smells, one doesn't. Keep passing that gene.
Oh, the poor guy. The poor guy. I hope his friends are all listening to this later. Later in there, because they gotta think.
I'm not saying names.
Which son are we talking about?
Yeah, exactly.
Don't know what police service, don't know what son. So on that note, man, Joe, I just appreciate you so much. I thank you so much for getting out of your comfort zone, coming on here today. And you know what, honestly, and for every minute that I've ever got to spend with you and work alongside you, work for you, those kind of things, it's been an honor, man. And you're one of the great ones. So thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you, Tony. I appreciate it. You're solid, brother. All through the years, man. I appreciate your friendship.
Good. Next one's in person though, man. In person.
Yes,
even if we don't record it, we're doing it in person. All right.
Okay. Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
All right. We are over and out, guys. Thank you so much for listening. Go ahead, subscribe. If you want some nutrition supplements, go ahead and go to HQ Nutrition. Use code TANGO15 to save. And thank you to Murray Insurance, who are here sponsoring every single podcast. They are a one-stop shop for your finances, car, home, everything you need to stay insured. Owned by Garage Gym OGs, Ian and Kara Murray. So get a hold of them at teammurrayinsurance.ca. We're over and out.
Now's the time to do more and be more.